Both of my parents would tell me that it would be easier for me to just my life and it would end all of their family problems. At 18 years old, I became homeless due to my family from my father. It wasn't just like one isolated event that led to me becoming homeless at 18. It was like an accumulation of events that happened over time since my childhood. My mother was in a DV relationship with my father, and she had immigrated here from the Philippines, and it was very hard for her to leave this kind of dynamic because she became isolated when she was here, and then she realized that it just wasn't what she had thought it would be. Progressed from my father getting physically aggressive and hurting my mother to eventually hurting me as a child. My father is the type of person where he likes control, and he has a lot of issues controlling his anger and his temper, and it would be over the smallest things. In my family, we walked on eggshells, and we just had to be careful with every little thing that we would say. I became homeless because my father threatened my life multiple times, and it escalated to a point where for me my father was very physically aggressive. He's 6 foot and he's very muscular, and so for my mother and I, he would just use us like a punching bag pretty much. I grew up with my father always screaming at my mother and beating her, and then also throwing things at her, breaking stuff in the house, and there was broken glass and everything, and that was just something that I was used to growing up. Eventually it started happening to me as I got older. I just didn't have anywhere else to go because we didn't necessarily have any family that I could go to, and I didn't have any friends because a majority of the people in my class were guys, and I didn't want to contact them to go and stay with them. So I didn't know necessarily growing up that what was happening to me was it was just normalized for me. This was all I knew. And so in my head, my father would tell me you need to be disciplined. It's this is your discipline. And so I had never looked at it as it was something bad, or that it was a I had never labeled it that way until I went to this camp and I spoke to my counselor. And I didn't really tell people about our family problems growing up. But when I went, my counselor noticed that there was something wrong with me because I wasn't able to physically participate in some of the things because my body was hurting from being physically prior to going to the camp. She came back and she told me that she had to report what I told her. And so that's when I found out that CPS was going to get involved within my family. I didn't know that someone was legally required to report these things, and I didn't know that they were even bad in the first place. But when I had gotten home, my church and my school had gotten involved because the camp had contacted them, and then CPS had gotten involved within my family. So in the beginning, I had lied to CPS saying that I had just made it up and that I lied about everything and I shouldn't have said anything. But it wasn't until I spoke to someone at church when she told me that if I don't tell the truth about what happened, and if my father doesn't get the necessary help that he needs, that if I were to get older and I were to leave the house, then my father would do the same thing to my siblings and they would basically take my place. And so I realized that I didn't want my siblings to live like that. So at 12 years old, that's when I ended up with telling the truth to CPS. I don't necessarily remember enough of what happened because my family didn't communicate the outcome to me, but I know that my father ended up of going to anger management, and then I ended up of going to counseling. But I went to one session for counseling, and then my mother pulled me out because she said that I didn't have to talk to other people about our family problems. So the anger management classes for my father worked for a bit, but I wasn't getting any therapy or any counseling, and I was just dealing with everything on my own. And when CPS had got involved within my family, it just made my whole family situation worse. Both of my parents would tell me that I was the cause for all of our family issues and that I'm the problem in this family. And I was very depressed and I was suicidal as well. Both of my parents would tell me that it would be easier for me to just my life and it would end all of their family problems. Eventually, when I was 18, I was in my freshman year of nursing school, and my father had gotten sick. He had this undiagnosed illness that he was dealing with, where he was having a lot of health attacks where he like almost died multiple times. And so I took care of my father for over a year, and he was like on the hospital on my 18th birthday, and he almost like died then. I guess all of the stress was just too much for my father, that like on March 2nd 2021 he just like exploded, and he just wanted to end my life. And he was like telling my brother to like pass his crutches so that he could beat me and kill me with them. And my mother had to like intervene, because even though my father had gotten his foot surgery, I didn't see him get up on his own at this point. But my father was actually like getting up, and he was like making his way towards me, and my mother had to like get in between, and she had to like push him down and hold him down. That began my journey of like homelessness, and like I was couch surfing and trying to figure everything out. And so months went by, and I was just couch surfing until eventually, because of my father's illness, he left his work on disability, and they moved. And my father kind of apologized. He just said that he doesn't want our family to be like this anymore, and so he tried to be on good terms with me again. And so it was like for the first time that I felt like I had my father in my life, and I believe it lasted 5 or 6 months. It lasted from June to November. I had to become homeless again, and so I just started couch surfing, and I was like sleeping at work because I was working in the city as like a store manager, so I could go to the store and sleep there if I had to open the store the next day and everything. And I was also working as a babysitter in New York City, and the family that I was working with, like they looked out for me here and there. Eventually, like my partner had gotten a new apartment. He signed a lease on a new apartment, and he asked me to move in with him because he didn't want me to live like this anymore. Eventually, like I had finally graduated with my bachelor's in nursing at 21. And so that was last year in 2024. And so like during my time during nursing school, I had found like the culture of backpacking and like traveling and everything. And so I went on my first solo trip to like Guatemala to like work on myself, and it was during my spring break. So before, with doing no contact with my family, I was just very depressed and like suicidal, and I just wanted to like find some kind of meaning and purpose in my life. And when I had gone on this trip, like it completely changed everything for me, and I realized that like I don't have to be in the same environment and live the same kind of lifestyle or like keep struggling. And then so after that, I decided to shift it more to talking about my life and to talking about my story and letting other people hear it. Because before, as a child, like I had never talked about it. Like talking to CPS was like the first and only thing that I did, but I wasn't like specific, and I left a lot of things out. And I was just very quiet growing up. I thought that like I shouldn't talk about these things, that like this is something I need to be ashamed of. And my mother would always say like what happens in the house stays in the house. So I would just never tell other people with what we were dealing with. As time went on with social media, like I began like telling my story and like being comfortable sharing it. And I was able to build a community online on all my platforms to be able to create like a safe space for other people to feel heard and feel seen with everything that they've dealt with in their life, and to be able to share their experiences like openly and authentically. I think people need to be educated on, and we need to spread awareness of. And for me, on my healing journey, I'm finally going to therapy at 22. I actually had like my first like real session recently. I'm excited to see where my therapy journey leads me. But I'm a very talkative person. I'm very open with my experiences, and I try to be authentic in sharing them, because at the end of the day, I know that this is not something that I need to be ashamed of, and it wasn't my fault for something that happened to me when I was a child. For me, I've changed a lot within the past few years. I'm a completely different person, and for me, I believe that like I'm strong and I'm resilient, and that I deserve better than whatever family dynamic and whatever kind of situation that is, and that I deserve to feel safe and at peace with my life and continue living the life that I live, because I'm in a healthy relationship now, and I know what love looks like, and I know what a healthy love looks like, and I know that I deserve these things, so I want to give everything and all of that to myself. And so for anyone watching, even though with the kind of childhood that you've lived, you deserve like good things in your life. even though you may not believe it right now, one day you will look at the world and you will look within yourself and you'll realize that you deserve good things and you deserve to be loved. You don't deserve to put up with these kinds of misbehaviors. And for me, within this time period, I've learned that I don't love my family for who they are as people. I love them for the potential that they have, but a potential that they will never utilize. Your past doesn't have to define your future, and your future is whatever you want to make out of it. So in your present day life, you just have to keep pushing and just keep picking yourself back up and keep being resilient. And one day your future, you'll be able to look back on your past and you're gonna not even recognize that version of yourself.